The imperial palace shone under the intense golden light of the afternoon sun, a majestic scene that enchanted everyone present. Its imposing towers, like sentinels defying time, stood firmly against the vast blue sky, guarding the mysteries and traditions that had shaped the empire over generations. In the grand halls, a murmur of expectation lingered like a light mist, as each ancient tapestry and intricately carved piece of furniture seemed to await, eager to witness the unfolding of that historic day's destiny. Emperor Gaston, heir to a noble lineage dating back to immemorial ages, walked the corridors with the imposing dignity of a lion, his proud bearing reflecting the strength of his legacy. His deep, piercing eyes captured the gravity of the moment approaching. It was time to fulfill one of the empire's most ancient traditions, the sacred duty of choosing his future wife. For countless centuries, this tradition echoed through the corridors of time, keeping alive the heritage of the first emperors who laid the solid foundations of the empire. This was more than a ritual. It was a practice symbolizing generational continuity, a pledge of love and commitment both to the people and to history. In the days leading up to this monumental choice, the villages surrounding the palace were abuzz with anticipation and hope, and their inhabitants prepared eagerly. Young women, each carrying her family's stories and her ancestors' dreams, readied themselves for a moment that could forever change the course of their lives, a milestone that would irrevocably alter their destinies. Since ancient times, every emperor has borne the solemn responsibility of choosing a wife to share not only his throne and wealth, but also his heart and soul. This was no mere political formality. It was the union of two destinies, the strengthening of the royal lineage, and above all, the pursuit of a deep and genuine love. As the sun slowly set on the horizon, bathing the palace in sunset hues of orange and pink, nobles and contenders for the role of empress began gathering in the luxurious halls. Clad in opulent fabrics and flawless attire, they sparkled under the golden light, each representing a noble house carrying its own ambitions, hopes, and personal aspirations. Among all the suitors, one young woman shone like a rare pearl among diamonds. Her name was Sophie, and her beauty radiated with a special glow, with her brown hair and eyes that sparkled like stars in the night sky. Her presence was like a ray of light, standing out in the crowd, and her innate grace and genuine kindness captivated hearts wherever she went. Sophie was a free spirit, born in a simple village, but with a determination that knew no bounds. From a young age, she learned to trust her own voice and chart her own path, even when that meant swimming against the current of social conventions. Sophie refused to participate in the cultural activities the court offered to help young women stand out. While other suitors dedicated themselves to sophisticated dances, the study of musical instruments, and the recitation of ancient love poems, Sophie preferred to spend her days in the fields, running among wildflowers, absorbing the simple beauty of nature, and listening to the bird's song. For her, the court's traditions represented empty rituals, a theater of appearances that said little about a person's true essence. She believed that authentic beauty was born from the heart, from a pure and true soul, which could never be molded by external expectations or social impositions. Even with her parents and friends encouraging her to conform to societal norms and desires, Sophie remained unwavering in her decision. She knew she couldn't betray who she was just to satisfy others, for her integrity was something she valued more than any title or power. She imagined the emperor as a cold, unfeeling man, someone who could never understand the true meaning of love. Since childhood, she had heard stories of the empire's rulers' rigidity and coldness, and had created in her mind the image of a distant, unyielding man, whose heart seemed as frozen as the ice covering the kingdom's highest mountains. For Sophie, the idea of being alongside someone she considered incapable of love caused her deep anguish. She dreamed of true love, of a companion who would see her beyond appearances and love her not for her status or position, but for who she was at her core. While other contenders dreamed of the prestige and glory that the title of Empress would bring, Sophie felt increasingly discouraged by the prospect of sharing her life with someone who, she believed, couldn't return her love. She wondered if she could endure the loneliness and lack of affection that marriage could bring. She knew she wouldn't change her essence just to please the emperor, but she also feared the uncertain and solitary future she envisioned if he were as cold and loveless as she imagined. If you are enjoying this story so far, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, as the next ones will be even more exciting, and you won't want to miss them. Let's continue. With the arrival of Selection Day, Sophie felt increasingly isolated and misunderstood. She knew that her refusal to follow conventions and participate in cultural activities was controversial and caused dissatisfaction among the court members and other suitors. However, she was also fully certain that she couldn't give up her principles and values just to win others' approval. When the long-awaited day finally arrived, Sophie faced the emperor with courage and firmness. She knew that her resistance to participating in traditional activities could compromise her chances of being chosen, but she was prepared to accept any consequences of her choices. As the emperor gazed at her with an intense, penetrating look, Sophie felt vulnerable, almost exposed, as if all her emotions were on display. She knew she risked everything by challenging the court's expectations, but she also knew deep down that she would never regret following her heart. The emperor, in turn, felt instantly drawn to Sophie. It was an overwhelming moment. When their eyes met, he realized there was no doubt about who he wanted by his side as empress. Sophie, with her brown hair and eyes that shone like stars, captured the emperor's heart in an instant. He found himself enchanted by her beauty and delicacy. From that encounter on, the emperor could no longer keep Sophie out of his thoughts. She filled his dreams, and he imagined her beside him at every moment of the day. His heart raced, and he understood that his destiny was forever bound to hers. When it came time for Sophie to formally present herself to the emperor, she spoke with honesty and sincerity that surprised everyone. With a resigned sigh, she lifted her head and met the emperor's gaze, her voice firm and clear as she expressed her feelings. "Emperor, with all due respect, I cannot be your chosen one, for my desire is to marry for love. I want to find the true love of my life. I know my decision may not be accepted by everyone, but it is the only path I can follow with integrity and truth." And as silence filled the room and the crowd looked on in astonishment, Sophie experienced a sense of freedom and relief she hadn't felt in years. She knew her decision defied the empire's traditions and expectations, but she also understood that this was the only way to live fully according to her own values and principles, staying true to what she believed was the true meaning of love and happiness. As the emperor deeply reflected on Sophie's words, she felt a growing tightness in her stomach, as if her body sensed the importance of her decision. She knew that by choosing to follow her own heart, she would forever define the course of her life, possibly distancing herself from everything she knew. However, she also knew she could never live a lie, even if it meant renouncing the crown and the title of empress. Days passed slowly, filled with uncertainty, until the awaited moment arrived. The announcement was made, and Sophie was chosen as empress. Her heart filled with sadness and anguish. It felt as though it shattered into 1,000 pieces upon hearing her name echoing through the grand palace halls. It was as if all her greatest fears and anxieties materialized before her astonished eyes. She felt like a puppet, manipulated by rigid traditions, forced to place her fate in the hands of a man she barely knew and who, to her, represented a figure that evoked fear. While her family and court members celebrated her selection with joy and enthusiasm, Sophie felt increasingly lost and alone. She tried to recall all the reasons she had initially refused to participate in the selection, the thoughts, doubts, and anxieties that had consumed her from the beginning. However, these feelings seemed muffled by the crushing weight of the responsibilities she now bore and the expectations surrounding her. As she prepared to finally meet the Emperor, Sophie felt a lump form in her throat, a sign that there was no way to escape this destiny chosen for her. She knew she had been selected to play a role she had never desired. Yet part of her being refused to accept the idea of sharing the rest of her life with someone she feared and did not respect. Finally, the much-anticipated wedding day arrived, shrouded in its own splendor. The palace was adorned with lush flowers and twinkling candles, and the corridors echoed with soft music, accompanying the arrival of guests who would witness the union of the Emperor and Sophie. During the ceremony, she looked at the Emperor with a gaze full of resentment and distrust, feeling like a prisoner handed over to her captor. Every step she took, every word she repeated reminded her of the sealed destiny imposed against her will. However, as the ceremony proceeded, something unexpected began to shift in her heart. Little by little, she started to notice the kindness and beauty of the man before her, a hidden gleam of goodness in his eyes, and the slight smile curving his lips. After the ceremony, Sophie was escorted to the Emperor's chambers for the wedding night, a moment she did not wish for. Her heart was heavy, as this was not the destiny she had chosen. She had been forced into it by unyielding and immutable traditions that had pressed upon her forever. Walking through the palace corridors, Sophie felt herself wrapped in a disturbing dream, as if heading toward an unknown and dark future. The sensation of being far from the simple, peaceful life of her village made her feel even more out of place, as if she were in a reality that did not belong to her. Upon entering the Emperor's chambers, Sophie felt small and lost amid the surrounding opulence and luxury. The space seemed immense and dazzling, but for her, it lacked familiarity and warmth. She wondered if she would ever be able to adapt to this life of formalities and riches, or if she would always feel like a stranger in her own dwelling. As the Emperor watched her with a caring, curious gaze, Sophie felt uncomfortable and insecure. The night crept forward, and the two shared a silent dinner, broken only by the soft sound of music in the background, which seemed to create an even greater distance between them. When it was finally time to retire for the night, Sophie felt her throat tighten again. She knew that this night would be one of the most challenging of her life, a crossing toward a forced intimacy that caused her anxiety and fear. When the Emperor approached, with a hesitant smile on his lips, Sophie felt a mix of apprehension and resigned acceptance, not knowing what the future would bring. In the end, Sophie decided to refuse to consummate the marriage and confronted the Emperor with determination about her own wishes. She understood that this was a difficult and risky choice, but she also knew she needed to be honest with herself and with the man to whom she was now officially united. With her heart pounding and full of nerves, Sophie gathered all the courage she possessed and calmly explained her reasons, revealing her desire not to advance in physical intimacy until they were both truly ready and committed. The Emperor was surprised by Sophie's frankness, but at the same time, he admired her courage and determination. He listened carefully to her words, realizing that she was defending not only her integrity, but also her right to choice and autonomy. Recognizing the gravity of forcing the marriage, the Emperor chose to respect Sophie's wishes and would wait for the right moment. For him, it was a powerful revelation, showing him how his actions had hurt not only Sophie, but also compromised the integrity of their relationship. He then confronted the truth that true love cannot be imposed, but must be cultivated with care, respect, and patience born of understanding and humility. The Emperor expressed his deep regret and genuine desire to correct his mistakes. He understood that she was much more than an obedient wife, She was a partner deserving of being valued and heard in every aspect of their life together. Approaching Sophie, the emperor revealed his deepest emotions and vulnerabilities, sharing with her his worries and fears. He promised to stand by her side not only as a husband, but also as a loyal friend and confidant, ready to offer support in her moments of doubt and fragility. Sophie, taken by surprise and deeply moved, was touched by the sincerity she saw in the emperor. She began to see him in a new light, as a chance for a fresh start she had never considered, a future they could build together, grounded in mutual respect and growing trust. Her heart began to open up to him, allowing her to see beyond her own barriers and discover the true essence of the man now by her side. The emperor, in turn, respecting Sophie's space and wishes, withdrew to another wing of the palace, leaving her in her chambers, but with a renewed sense of hope regarding what they could build together. Sophie found herself torn between the initial rejection she had felt and the gradual discovery of the kindness the emperor revealed in small gestures. At first, she avoided any kind of closeness, remembering the impositions that had united them. However, as the days passed and she noticed the attention and care the emperor showed for her well-being, a subtle change began to happen in her heart. Without realizing it, Sophie found herself thinking of him at the most unexpected moments, replaying in her mind the encouraging smiles and gentle gestures he gave her, touching her in unexpected ways. She fought an inner battle, trying to reconcile the initial repulsion with the growing fondness that, against her will, she began to feel. On some occasions, she wondered if she was being naive in allowing herself this closeness. Could there be something more than the marital agreement between them? Or was she deceiving herself with this illusion? However, Sophie could not deny the uniqueness of the bond between them, a silent and strong link that seemed to transcend the empire's norms and expectations, transforming everything around them. As Sophie wrestled with these conflicting feelings, the emperor also faced his own inner questions. He knew that his past actions had hurt Sophie, and determined to make amends, he sought to show that he was not the cold and distant man she had imagined. Every day, his dedication to winning Sophie's trust and affection became more visible, making it clear how deeply he cared for her and was willing to do anything to win her heart and trust. Thus, Gaston dedicated himself fully to winning Sophie's heart. He knew the task would be difficult, but he was resolute in proving that his feelings were genuine and intense. Every morning, Gaston greeted her with a warm smile and a fresh bouquet from the palace garden. He invited her for long walks through the magnificent castle gardens, where he shared childhood stories and spoke of his hopes and dreams for the future, revealing to her parts of himself no one else knew. Attentive to Sophie's preferences and desires, Gaston made every effort to make her feel valued and appreciated. He brought books he knew would enchant her and arranged candlelit dinners, where they spent hours talking and getting to know each other. With each gesture, Sophie felt touched by Gaston's effort to win her over. Little by little, she realized that behind the image of a firm and powerful emperor, there was a loving and caring man, willing to do anything to make her happy. Over time, Sophie and Gaston built a rare and special friendship, based on mutual trust and deep respect. They shared laughs and secrets, dreams and fears, offering each other comfort and support in difficult times. As Gaston continued to court her, Sophie noticed that something in her feelings was changing. She began to look forward to his presence, to seek his opinion in crucial moments, revealing an affection that grew day by day. Despite the perfect marriage in the palace's eyes, they had not yet consummated the union. Gaston felt a deep love and desire for Sophie, but to him, she was much more than a wife. She was his soulmate, his safe harbor amidst the empire's storms. With each new day, Gaston found himself more in love, admiring Sophie's strength and generosity. He observed how she cared for the less fortunate in the kingdom, treating even the humblest with compassion, and felt immensely grateful to have her by his side. Although his desire for Sophie was immense, Gaston knew he couldn't rush her into taking the next step. He understood that she needed time to feel safe and comfortable, and he was willing to wait as long as necessary. In the meantime, Gaston continued to express his affection in every possible way, surprising her with thoughtful gifts, taking her on romantic walks, and always treating her with the respect and dignity she deserved. Sophie, in turn, felt deeply moved by Gaston's dedication. She saw in him not only the powerful emperor, but also the gentle and compassionate man hidden behind the crown. She knew she was in love, but she still faced the pains of the past that prevented her from fully surrendering to happiness. However, with their love blossoming, both felt that, at the right moment, they would consummate the marriage, not out of duty, but because their hearts would lead them to this new phase of their journey. Near the 3rd month of marriage, Sophie realized she was truly in love with Gaston. She was moved to discover the love blossoming within her, like a secret garden in full bloom. Every moment by his side made her feel more alive and complete. One evening at sunset, she gathered all the courage she possessed and confessed her loneliness and desire to spend the night with Gaston. She knew it was a bold step, but she longed for the intimate connection that only true love could offer. Hearing Sophie's words, Gaston's heart filled with joy. He embraced her tenderly, as if he wanted to protect her from any pain. With a look full of love, he promised to do everything to make her happy. Together, they went to the emperor's chambers, where candles illuminated the room with a soft glow, and the fire crackled in the fireplace, creating a cozy and intimate atmosphere. That night, Sophie and Gaston surrendered to each other, not just physically but in spirit. They shared dreams, desires, and hopes becoming one. They finally consummated their marriage in an unforgettable moment of tenderness. After months of waiting and anticipation, they found themselves in a deep and transformative connection. In the candlelight, they exchanged intense kisses and embraces that spoke more than any words. Each touch was filled with emotion. Every gaze overflowed with love and desire. For Sophie, this night was a life-changing experience. She gave herself to Gaston's love with total trust, feeling more connected to him than she ever imagined. She marveled at how he made her feel valued and desired, always treating her with gentleness and respect. For Gaston, it was the fulfillment of his deepest dreams. He felt blessed to share that special moment by her side, promising to protect and love her for life. When the sun rose on the horizon, Sophie and Gaston embraced tenderly, knowing their love would only grow stronger over time. They had a lifetime ahead of them, filled with adventures and challenges, but they were certain that, together, they could overcome any obstacle that fate might throw their way. For they had each other, and that was all that mattered. The emperor and Sophie made a point of publicly displaying their happiness and love. Everyone in the palace admired the imperial couple's joy, now visible in every smile and shared glance. With the sun shining over the towers, they walked hand in hand through the gardens, lighting up the path with their presence. They exchanged loving looks and secret smiles, wrapped in the magical aura of the love that united them. As they passed, courtiers and servants bowed respectfully, witnessing the greatness of this singular moment. They whispered among themselves about the royal couple's beauty and how their love radiated throughout the kingdom. In the throne room, the emperor raised his goblet in a toast to his beloved empress, Sophie, expressing gratitude for having her by his side and promising to honor her for all eternity. Sophie, with a radiant smile, felt blessed to have found true love in Gaston's arms. As music echoed through the hall and guests danced, the couple moved in perfect harmony, their hearts beating in unison. They were the embodiment of true love, a shining example for all in the kingdom. And so, As day turned to night and the stars filled the sky, the Emperor and Sophie continued to celebrate their love. They knew that together, they could face any challenge the future might hold. For they had each other, and that was what truly mattered. I hope you enjoyed this fascinating story. So subscribe to our channel and enjoy watching the video that's appearing on your screen now. See you next time.